Hello and welcome to the Crazy Sexy Food Podcast. I'm Hannah Harley-Young, a photographer by trade and a foodie at heart. Each week, I sit down and chat all things food with well-known foodies, industry insiders, chefs, critics, and people who just love their food. Today, I'm joined by the woman who is responsible for making me look and feel the most beautiful I've ever felt last year on June 28th on my wedding day. Kate Halfpenny, the owner and designer behind Halfpenny London, the British bridal brand, is a magician. Her infamous range, known for its interchangeable pieces, the highest quality fabrics, and exquisite, modern, and may I say cool designs, turn an everyday bride into a magnificent vision. We'll get onto my personal experience later, but Kate is a true visionary. Leading by the phrase, "Be the bride you want to be," the Halfpenny experience is like no other. Her dresses fit and feel differently. She accommodates for women no matter their size or age, and parts of her collection are so versatile you could even wear them on a glamorous night out. What a joy it is to be back in her boutique in central London and be with the woman herself. Kate, thank you for joining me.
Oh, my absolute pleasure. I'm blushing at that intro.
It's all true.
Oh, this is your life.
This is your life. And it is so nice to be back here because the last time I was here, I think I was picking up my dress.
Oh, gosh.
I know, back
when life was actually
normal.
Life and
life,
fun.
Exactly. How are you?
I'm quite livid today, actually.
Yes.
Normally, I would definitely not start a conversation like that. And
Yeah.
I would, I'm all for celebrating the joy. And I've been celebrating the joy of COVID and the last insane 6 months of our lives. But however, I am so absolutely cross today because we've got one more day of retail and then we're closing again for a month. So they say. We've had the most insane 3 months of brides coming in, and the new systems that we've put in place since reopening after COVID have really enhanced the experience even more so, even though you gave me that glowing review from last year. And so, we've been celebrating all of the things that's the time and the reflection and the new systems have brought to the business. And brides don't come 10 times before they make an order, and they're more focused because they don't want to schlep to loads of boutiques. And so we're having incredible, wonderful brides that are just so grateful to be able to finally get in and choose their dress and to start dreaming and imagining how they're going to look and what the day's going to look like. And yet again, the rug's been pulled from under everyone's feet.
I think something that I really gained from my experience of being a bride-to-be was actually, it's not about the wedding day, it's the whole run-up.
Yeah.
That was actually the exciting part, getting all the components and putting it together. And I feel like that's, a lot of brides have had to kind of change what they're going to do for their wedding, just go and do the civil ceremony, do the party later. But it's sort of, it all still feels quite rushed and it's not exactly what you planned. And honestly, my heart goes out.
What broke my heart on Sunday, and it happened a few weeks ago when they took 30 people at a wedding down to 15. I was like, my brides. And literally, my husband was like, that just, for me, is a testimony to you that it's not really, you don't think about your business. I don't. I genuinely am so devastated and frustrated for everyone whose magical journey, the biggest, most fabulous day of their life, this experience that they're supposed to have, like you say, the planning, the appointments, the visits. It's kind of, you're only allowed to bring one person with you from the same household now. It cannot be somebody that doesn't live with you.
It's obviously been a really tough time for the wedding industry and for brides. Throughout this whole period of lockdown, so kind of from March, have you, as a designer, have you felt more inspired, less inspired? Have you been designing throughout this whole period?
I have, and we launched a new collection last month. We would have been at Bridal Market in New York, which is a huge market for us, and particularly our Asian market, Japan, we have a huge presence there. And that's where we meet with our buyers from the States and Asia. And it was such a beautiful collection. It was very different. The piece that I wrote about that collection said that the collection looked very different when I started designing it and had got it all mood boarded before lockdown. And then the whole impact of lockdown and the reflection of me looking at this very decadent and quite heavily embellished collection made me realise that I needed to reshape it. So I've taken key silhouettes and looked for inspiration of what actually sometimes things are right in front of you. So yeah, a lot of reflection and a lot of change, and it's a very clean and simple collection. With, I just showed you the skirt that's got the hearts encapsulated down the seams, and the little guipure cape on that big frilly number by the door is again made from waste. So it's now more than ever forcing me to look at ways that that we as a business consume fabrics and our footprint and our everything more than ever. So I'm so inspired from launching that and people's reaction to it, and everyone's, it's the best collection you've done, and how the fact it changed so much. It was hard having a child at home and trying to be inspired and work.
I can imagine.
Yeah, but
were you homeschooling in between all of that?
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, he was 5 at the end of August,
fine.
so he's the youngest in year 1 at his school. So he was very much a little baby 4-year-old that technically really probably should have started reception this September, but because of his age, he did go in last year. And so yeah, homeschooling was building camps, teaching him how to make scrambled eggs. He's very good at making a coffee now.
Oh God, you're training him young. I love that.
He so loves cutting
Really?
veg and preparing food, and he made an incredible chocolate torte on Sunday for
Oh my gosh.
a lunch that we had. And yeah, he loves it in the kitchen.
Oh my God, this is going to be my future child.
Yeah.
I love it. And I'm going to make sure that they can make my coffee exactly as I want it, practically as soon as they can walk.
Yeah.
So just want to bring it back to the food. What did you have for breakfast today?
Today we're a massive household of hard-boiled eggs. Well, not quite hard. That tiny bit.
Like a slightly
I could cook them perfectly.
Like molten in the middle.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
And so I had 2 hard-boiled eggs cut into quarters and seasoned with. Now I can't think of the name of it, but you put it round your beer in Mexico.
Like a lime salt.
Yeah, the
lime
Mexican
salt.
Yeah,
I'm
obsessed
with that.
So put that on your hard-boiled eggs with a tiny bit of salt and pepper, and then I have it with corn cake thins with a little bit of that French salted butter. So insane. And you can always add a slice of finocchia or some pea shoots and a bit of cucumber on the side. I'm not supposed to be eating potatoes and tomatoes, the sort of deadly nightshade things at the moment, so I'm really missing not having a load of tomatoes on there as well. But yeah,
fabulous.
So that's something that James and I literally would hard-boil a dozen eggs, and then that's kind of 3 days.
I have to say that lime salt changes anything as well.
Anything.
I put it on a lot of stuff.
It also looks amazing when you're putting a platter out and doing a whole kind of continental spread when you've got guests staying, which won't be happening.
No, it won't be happening anytime soon. So I just want to take it back to your childhood. You were born in Derbyshire. What was your childhood like? What were you eating growing up? Who was cooking? Was food important? Sort of paint the picture for me.
So my mum and stepdad were very much we'd get in from school and have home cooked meals, and it would be your kind of pie and mash. It would be your very English kind of classic foods. It was a proper sit down meal, and there was nearly always a dessert. And then on a Friday, my dad would pick me up and we'd go there till Sunday, and my sister and I would cook with my dad. It would just be the 3 of us for the formative kind of teenage years until he remarried. And my dad and sister were addicted to prawn cocktails, and I hated prawns as a teenager.
Really?
Yeah, so I would have a cucumber cocktail, and my dad would kind of do loads of different amazing things to the cucumbers, where he'd shave them and cut them and ribbon them and just make these amazing jazzy cucumber cocktails. So I'd have the iceberg lettuce and loads of cucumber, and then the Mary Rose on top.
Oh, I love it.
And my dad and sister were complete meat eaters and loved steak and rare, and I was more like my mother, who was a vegetarian. And so for most of my teenage years, just wouldn't eat meat if there was any blood near it, until I kind of went to France for I was about 17, I think, and I went to France for a month. And I mean, BNQE was the kind of the word that I just keep saying, and they just would send it back and it'd still have blood on the plate, and I'd eventually just realised actually it's a far better way of eating it. So yeah, there's nothing I love more than my husband doing a big piece of steak on the barbecue, and he slices it in the way that they would, and then just lays it on a big piece of wood, and he does that the same with pork chops, so that they're all barbecued and all I mean, yeah.
Oh, I'm salivating.
You need to come. We've just
Yes.
literally put in a 900 circle outside oven that's literally, I'll put a picture up next week. It literally looks like the one that they have in the pizza garden at the Pig.
No
The Pig at
way.
Bridge. I sent a picture to our builder saying, I want it this big, joking. And then we ordered this amazing kit so we just said, we might as well just get the big one. And it's beautiful, all rendered, and like it literally looks like some spaceship. Yeah,
so it's a pizza oven. It's everything.
Everything. But we're going to be putting big old joints into there, more so than pizzas. I mean, I might be doing the yogurt, yogurt flatbreads. That you can just yogurt and gluten-free flour, and then just cover them in garlic, and everything tastes better with smoke, right?
So were you predominantly vegetarian growing up then?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, and really not heavily into food. I mean, I'm a real salty person. I've always been. I've always loved those salty snacks. I mean, it's definitely a problem for me. I crave them.
Me too.
I just love. And now there's those amazing Kentish truffle crisps that are just salty and utterly.
Everything.
Yeah.
And when you were sort of growing up, aside from the food, did you always know that fashion was going to be your route? Because you ended up going to St. Martin's.
Yeah.
Was that kind of ingrained in you? Because your mother was
a knitwear designer for a short period of time before her and my father separated, because it was a business that my dad had set up. My dad was working abroad a lot, so it was, Mum had this amazing mohair, very Dennis the Menace stripes and kind of bat wings and pastel colours that kind of worked with your dash tracksuits. And
fab.
That I kind of grew up under the knitting tables after school, just winding cones and loving the kind of the wool winders and different things, and a lot of machine knits and hand knits. And she had knitters all over the country, and I'd go on buying trips for wool to Yorkshire, and that massively inspired me. I just never would be seen without a pencil or a pen in my hand. I'd doodle, and even if I would just be writing my name, the piece of paper that would be by the phone or the pad or the envelope, everything would just be covered. There wouldn't be a space on it. I used to love drawing eyes, I don't know why. And
that's interesting.
It was always just, there'd be eyes and then my name, and I'd always try and write like my mum. She wrote beautifully, and now my friend said the other day, did you write that card your mum just gave to me, a housewarming card? And I was like, no, we've just got similar writing. I used to think it was for forging the school notes to get out of PE.
And how was St. Martin's?
I went to St. Martin's for a master's, actually. I did my degree in Huddersfield first. Okay. So I went to art college for 3 years, which was just mind-blowing. And that's when I just was 100% sure I was specialising in fashion, because I did everything from pottery to photography. I was obsessed with Cindy Sherman and would recreate those film stills. Even though they were self-portraits, I recreated her pictures using a friend. Like, it was all a bit bonkers. I was never I
still love Cindy Sherman's work.
Completely, and was obsessed with photography. And but yeah, I couldn't imagine. I just loved making dresses, and I was never necessarily. I always thought I was winging it. I had that imposter syndrome for my. I think it's only now that I look, and because my mum's been recently saying, "Look what you've created," and I think what lockdown did was enforce that. Seeing my massive team on Zoom all sat there together and looking at what just the conversation, the dialogue about the business, and seeing what we had to pause and where we were at and how we've grown the business organically from launching it in 2005 in my front room to a couple of brides a year on the side while I did my styling and my celebrities and my TV commercials and music videos, to now. I gave all of that up when I started IVF in 2012. With Sylvester was born in 2015. So I kind of I found this shop in 2012 because it had got too big. And then when I was doing all the IVF and everything, I just thought, I can't be travelling like this. I need to look after myself. I was always that very busy, 3 commercials on the go at once and shooting here, there and flying off there. And also I then met James in 2009 and those few years, I didn't want to go away for 3 weeks to Brazil, sadly.
I'll take that any day.
Anything to go there now.
No, because actually just touching on that, I guess being a stylist, that's a really demanding job.
Yeah.
And you've kind of fast forwarded a bit, but we must mention, you have dressed some of the biggest names in the industry: Kate Moss, Rihanna, Amelia Fox, Erin O'Connor, to name just a very fair few. But, it's such a demanding lifestyle.
Yeah.
So at that point, maybe just before you started the IVF, what was your interest in bridal wear at this point?
So my degree at Huddersfield,
that was your final...
I specialised in bridal, for my final show, and it was
Yeah.
little cocktail dresses that had massive overskirts, and as they went down the catwalk, they undid the buckle and the big skirts dropped, and they had little dresses. So
you've really kept to your true self.
I was like, there's a huge gap in the market. I did them in lilacs and pinks, because I was like, you don't have to get married in ivory for it to be a wedding dress. And I hand felted these amazing coats and hand embroidered raw wool tops that I'd found in Yorkshire that were like, I suppose when you see a very curly lamb, and then I hand dyed them into lilacs and pinks, and then hand embroidered them together with, I basically sandwiched all of this wool between dissolvable fabric, embroidered it, and then dissolved the fabric, and the thread held it together. So I made my own fabric. Like, it was amazing. And little bustiers with kind of these big skirts and these big felt coats over the top. And I was like, there's a huge gap for going from day to night, and I really didn't see that out there. I mean, I remember I had to do a marketing document to go with my collection, and I remember sitting there, because it was pre-internet, it was kind of the late 90s, and I'd sit in the library and borrow a computer and sit pouring through the Mintel reports on marketing intelligence of what the bridal industry, and writing how valuable it is. It's a massive, important industry that is just brings such a lot of revenue to this country.
Totally.
And I also saw that opportunity as a businesswoman, the value of offering an incredible service and being able to no holds bar on the fabrics that you can use, because the value of the dress was justifiable in the make and the time and the labour. I want the inside of my dresses to look as beautiful as the outside, and you kind of, I was never into sort of fast fashion and everything, so it's always been a big love of mine.
You created Amelia Fox's wedding dress.
Yeah.
Would you feel like that was kind of the turning point where you sort of organically started focusing a lot more on bridal and stepping away from the styling and everything else?
I was very much still in the styling then. That was 2005 when I did Amelia's dresses, and her best friend on her wedding day said, you've captured Amelia in every stitch of that dress. And her aunt Fiona Golfer, that was at Vogue, we bumped into her at a fashion show, and she said, come and have a look around Vogue. And Amelia and I were like, oh my gosh, it's like the devil wears Prada, let's do it. And they were doing a feature on bridal wear, and they introduced me to Charlotte Sinclair, another amazing journalist there, and she was getting married, and I ended up taking her mum's sort of hat and veil and turning it into a veil that she could wear on her wedding day. And she included a belt that I'd made in a feature in Vogue. So my first piece of press was in Vogue for my wedding dresses, which of course I'd been doing since 98 when I graduated and went to St Martin's, and was always doing them on the side. So I created a website in 2005. Amelia modelled all of my vintage dresses and a collection that I'd made, because I'd always collected vintage wedding dresses, and it kind of was born. But I continued to do my TV commercials. I'd started doing all the M&S Christmas ads back then, and so I did those for many years, all of those big old number ads. And one point I was kind of working with Marks and Spencer's, like literally I'd be in every single week sort of working on photo shoots and collections, and it definitely didn't slow down, but what it did do was allow me to grow this, to invest in growing this myself. And everything that's here today has grown from that tiny seed very organically. And we've doubled the size of the business year on year for the last, since we opened, but in particular the last 3 years. It's just I feel I don't really know what's happened to the brand. It's very strong. We were on Radio 4 the day retail opened back up in a few months back, and it's kind of, we've just got to keep doing what we're doing.
And you will, but I think that's what you've just said is really, for me, what sets you apart. And I did want to talk about my experience with you, because I came to you on the recommendation of two completely separate friends, and I am not, should I say, I was not a traditional bride in any sense of the word. I wasn't frilly in the sense of I came by myself. I did all of my appointments around London on my own, because I just didn't need the whole sort of hurrah of loads of girls drinking champagne, crying. Like I'm just not that person. And I think my process when it came to looking for a wedding dress was that I didn't want to leave any stone unturned.
Yeah.
So I literally went to every possible place I could go to, and I had this whole vision. I wanted to be covered from my neck down to my wrist, down to my ankle, because I've got curves, I've got boobies, and as far as I was concerned, I wanted it all covered up because that was the way that my boobies were going to be held in place for the day.
Yeah.
I then come to see you, and I remember meeting, and I remember you looking at me. You weren't judgmental, but you were kind of like, I'm just going to show you something else, Hannah. Because I came to you and I said, I really want high neck. And you were like, but look at what you've got. Like, you've got to show this off. And you put me into a couple dresses, and then I went in, you put me into the Scotty. And for people that don't know what the Scotty dress is, I will describe it, but you can technically describe it. How I would describe it is the most beautiful, soft polka dot tulle that is sort of wrapped around the bodice as a sort of sweetheart neckline off the shoulder. It comes down into like a sort of sheer see-through skirt, and then underneath that is the Duchess.
It's a stretch. Stretch. It's like it's
satin.
Yeah, it's just
but
the
it's
most body hugging.
But it's exactly.
Yeah.
So you get best of both worlds. And I remember putting it on and coming out and looking in the mirror, and I got tears in my eyes because I never thought that someone like me could wear something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously on the day there was some scaffolding going on in that old bodice, but I want to ask you, what do you think sets you apart compared to other wedding dress boutiques out there? Because I felt it as a client.
So I don't know is the answer. All I know is that what we want to do is to see the light in your eye when we know we found what it is. And it could be a skirt from my collection in 2005 mixed with a top from the 2020 collection, mixed with a foundation that's never been seen before under those particular mixes. You are allowed in my boutique to create the dress of your dreams, to be the best version of yourself, and that isn't my assistants in the store saying to you, this is it, this is the one. Oh my gosh,
I had that many times.
Yeah, and I just find that outrageous that people. We don't try and upsell. We don't try and force you to pay by the end of the week. We're not selling you a white good here. We're selling you a package. We're selling you an emotional investment. It's not, often the biggest spend that somebody will ever spend as well, but it's kind of, there's more to it in that dress. It's everything. And I don't know what happens here that's different to other places, because obviously I've never been, I think I've been once with a friend, because she wanted this particular designer, and obviously she had it, but she wanted my opinion, and I would never encourage her to, I'd never say, come to me and I'll make you a version of that.
That felt quite weird for you going somewhere else.
Yeah, it's only ever happened once. But we don't have a style of bride here. We are, as you said in the intro, we are for everybody. You can, you're not that you. I don't know how to describe it. I think being a stylist has also informed my collection. There is hugely. Absolutely something for everybody here. There is, we've had amazing women that are getting married. There's a beautiful story that this couple, this woman, she married when she was in her 20s. This guy, she had a family with him. He sadly passed away, and then she met somebody from her late teens, and he'd lost his wife, and they were having a second chance, and they were so in love and they're now in their 60s, and and it's kind of
what a story.
And she wanted us to make her dress. She'd seen somebody had recommended it, and in the fact that you can be 60, you can be 70, you can be, you can be 20 marrying somebody you've been dating since you were primary school. It's kind of like we do have everything for everybody, and you can be a princess bride, you can be a fit and flare mermaidy bride, you can have 7 layers and be getting on getting married on a ski slope with fur coat over the top of it like we had this bride one time. It's kind of, there's
Wow.
nothing you can't do or have here. And
But you even have styles. I mean, you have trousers,
Yeah.
you have shorter skirts, you
Yeah.
have long. I mean, one of my favorite designs that you have that one day I will purchase, not obviously for any other wedding that I plan to be attending for myself, is the tassel
oh yeah,
skirt.
the ivy. There's a short version of that we've done for
fabulous.
Net-a-Porter. Yeah.
Like, I'd wear that
Yeah.
just on a normal day.
We do it in black.
Yeah, I'm going to get every colour. I mentioned in the intro, you stand by the phrase, be the bride you want to be. What does that mean to you?
It means that I don't want you to dress for anybody else. I don't want you to think what other people would expect you to wear. I don't want you to do anything other than be the best version of yourself and be who you imagine that would be walking down the aisle with that confidence and that, I've had brides that have come and can't even bear to look at themselves in the mirror, and by the time we're finished with them, they are oozing in confidence. And I sometimes think people don't realise how to make themselves look incredible. And with our guidance, I mean, I'm not in the shop all the time. I simply can't have, the best of both worlds of running this business and seeing all the brides. But my girls are incredible, and they have that same vision as me. And every single bride that we see is as important as I thoroughly enjoy doing bridal over kind of dressing stars, in the fact that I get to make that very one special day. I mean, stars are very lucky, they get epic dresses daily, and I still love doing that. But just to see the joy, you look how much joy it's brought to you, just having that dress that made you feel amazing, and it fitted you in all the right places. And
I've never loved my boobs more, Kate. I still look at the photos and I'm like, damn, Hannah, you got it going on.
Yeah, I mean, you had 2 dresses.
I did have 2 dresses.
Yeah.
Maybe just actually make a special mention to the Victor dress
that
I called my Beyonce dress, because I remember trying it on here and I thought, oh dear me, I'm going to have to buy 2 dresses because this dress is off the scale.
I remember your mum, she can't stop talking about that other dress.
And you know what's interesting? People have asked me in the past, since I've sort of started Crazy Sexy Food as well, because I'm going to come on to something that's quite topical for me, talking about how we perceive ourselves as women. And people have asked me, when's the most beautiful you've ever felt? And actually, the most beautiful I have ever felt was on my wedding day. And I'm not just saying that because I'm with you, but there was a specific moment. It goes without saying the Scotty dress was my main dress.
Yeah.
I walked down the aisle in that. It was everything. But I changed into the Victor halfway through the party. And I remember walking through the dance floor with this beautifully fitted little sort of thin little strap dress. Again, boobs propped up perfectly. And I had this really cute little quirky sort of kitschy handbag that I lent from my mum. And I walked through the crowds and everyone turned because they'd realised that I'd changed dress. And I just had never felt that feeling, and you can see it in the photos because the photographer had just realised I'd walked back in, and I'm kind of like sauntering through, and for me that was just the moment that I will always think about, and that's just what an amazing feeling to have.
Oh, yeah, I
a
was looking
dress
at
can
the
do
pictures.
that, and that's what I'm saying, is that it's, for me, it's everything that comes together. I know friends who have had really awful experiences getting dresses. They've still kept with that particular designer and worn the dress, but I don't know if it exudes the same kind of emotion that perhaps I felt. Because the process was so beautiful as well. Yeah,
I think that it is so important, and we don't have brides that have bad experiences here. And the minute, so if anyone's ever having a freak out at their fittings, we'll let's take the dress off and let's sit and have a cup of tea and let's talk about it. Or do you want to come back tomorrow?
Yeah.
Because it's not off. It's never the dress, because we will make sure that dress is perfect before you leave here. And it's, one time we had a bride and she was like, I just think it's the wrong colour. And it was the final fitting and she'd had all the fittings and we were like, but we don't do this dress in any other. I'm sure it was a different shade. On the website, it looks a different colour. And I was like, is everything okay?
Oh, no.
And she went, my husband sent all of the evening invites to the day guests and all the day invites to the night guests. So you can't undo
Oh,
You can't reverse that.
no.
It's
What
fine. You tell the people that thought they were only coming to the evening, oh no, that was a mistake.
Yeah.
But all of the people, you can't then go, oh, actually, you're not actually invited to the, you can't. So she was just in bits and was literally, the dress was getting it. And it was, so it, yeah, we become kind of therapists, and we become family liaison officers sometimes when there's, we're in the fitting room and we're going, do you want to come back on your own next week?
That's hilarious. You just touched on something that was really interesting, and I think I possibly tried to utter these words to you at some point as well a couple of years ago. Being in the bridal industry, there are a lot of women out there who sort of, in the run up to their wedding, obviously want to be the best version of themselves and may want to look a certain way. And one of those ways might be to lose a ton of weight. I think I did try and say that to you, and I think you told me to shut up, and I probably took your advice on that. How do you deal with brides that are kind of wanting to transform themselves and the pressures they put on themselves, especially just in general in that sort of industry? It's like, not that I was ever told that I had to lose weight for my wedding day, but I sort of had it ingrained in me that, oh my God, I had to make sure that I'd lost a half a stone, when I walked down that aisle.
Yeah, it's hard really, because some people you can, I'm firm with, and I'm like, you're not bloody wearing Spanx. Absolutely not. You're not putting them under that dress. And actually, let's just make the dress work for you, and you not work out to get into the dress. When we do a sample sale here, we make sure that the dress fits you, and we're not selling you something 2 sizes too small just to get the sale. And there's that whole kind of Sex in the City thing where they're pouring themselves into dresses, or grabbing dresses off racks. It's kind of like, there's enough pressure in life rather than trying to make yourself fit into a stereotype, or people think you should look like, or the dress size. We don't do a curve collection here. We're inclusive in the fact that I'm a size 20 to 22, and you can literally order that dress in any size. I mean, we're not terribly structured, as the same as me with a bust, but we can make those dresses work to support you. And if you want to have a soft tailor dress, then we are the brand. Or you can go bespoke and have a full-on scaffold and supported dress. But it's find that brand and that dress that just ticks all the boxes. And if it is support and being nipped in at the waist with corsetry that you want, then that is out there, and enhance those curves and your figure. Or we have the opposite here. We also have women that simply can't put weight on, and they're like, I've got no waist, I have no curves. How can you make me look more feminine on my wedding day? I'm straight up, straight down. And it works. You have the most incredibly gorgeous, slim women that feel, they don't want their arms out, they're too thin, or they don't like their collarbones, and they want, the same as you. You like, I want it up to my chin and down to my wrists and to my ankles. It's kind of, it works with all body shapes, and we've all got insecurities. And if somebody says to me they want sleeves and they never go out the house without their arms covered, then I'm not going to talk them into having a strapless dress. We'll listen to those things and find versions of, like, the beautiful drape around the arm of the Scotty on you, and it's kind of.
What is your favourite design?
Oh my gosh, I love the Charlotte dress, which is the quite power mesh. It's got drapes off the arm and the full circle silk crepe skirt. It's very much kind of inspired by my wedding dress.
Which leads me on very seamlessly to talking about your wedding dress. Obviously, you designed your own. What was the inspiration behind your dress?
It evolved. It really evolved. I never put enough effort into my wedding dress at all.
Really?
I look at the pictures on the day and think, oh gosh, that should have more drape in it. It's a bit tight. But I just love it. I wouldn't, if I would have exactly the same dress again. I always imagined I'd be head to toe in lace, and the only lace I had a polka dot veil, but had a very broad lace band around it that my assistant at the time, that was one of my bridesmaids, she made as a wedding present for me to my design. But the whole dress was Duchess silk and meters and meters. I think it was 17 meters. The skirt just kept pleating back on itself, and it weighed a ton. I was moving it the other day. It's in the loft. I mean, it really is just. I mean, I'm the worst. It got dry cleaned twice. I couldn't get all of the stains off the hem. You know, the corset actually is in the office because I brought it in for somebody to try
wow.
on. It's kind of like,
So it's in all different
yeah,
places.
it's like the veils on top of the cupboard in my studio. It's like I really should just box this up in a
Absolutely.
acid-free tissue paper and preserve it
Archive
myself.
it.
I know, it's ridiculous.
What food did you have at your wedding?
Oh my gosh, we had amazing. We had Detox Kitchen that had just started.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
It was when she first started, and I used to go to a gym in Knightsbridge, and Nicola, my trainer, was amazing, and I was just like, I just want to be healthy and fit. It's not about losing weight, but I've got a really bad knee, and she just built me strength up that I could wear heels down the aisle and I could kneel without any pain, and that was the main objective for exercise for me. I think I probably put on half a stone before the wedding, hence that corset looking a bit tight. And Detox Kitchen did huge big salads and platters and amazing
fabulous.
stuff, and then I had a hog roast company do big plates and plates, and I didn't eat a thing on my wedding day. It was my dream meal. It was just dream salads
What
and dream.
happened?
I was sick with love on the day. I was like, yeah, it was the most incredible day. And
did you have any wedding cake?
no, I don't think I did.
What was the cake?
It was made by my friend's mother. It was just tears and tears and colours and minty green and stacked towers of it, and yeah, it was amazing with swags, and it was really colourful, and the whole wedding was more like a kid's party, I suppose. Every diptyque centred the wedding as a gift for me. So every name place setting was a small diptyque candle with a helium balloon stuck to the candle that floated. So when you walked in, there was 200 places and it was a big long table, and then small tables coming off. So I was basically in the middle of the whole party, and it was just a sea of balloons. It just looked amazing.
What a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
God, I wish I knew about that before I was organising my wedding. Bringing it a little bit back to present day, obviously we have no choice but to cook at the moment. Are you a big cook?
Massive cook. We're such foodies, James and I.
What are your specialities at home?
We just love roasting loads of vegetables, from celeriacs to when I was eating potatoes. We've started growing loads of veg, and we'd cut the onions and lay them in a roasting dish with black garlic and then new potatoes, and just roast them to this big crusty yummy feast. And
are you eating
banana
meat?
shallots and
do you still eat meat now?
Yeah,
you do eat meat
most
now?
definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. And mackerel. I mean, we've got an amazing fish. We eat a lot of fish as well, but we barbecue tons of mackerel fillets when we have big parties, and just tons of salads. I'm
coming to yours after lockdown.
I'm all about salads, like Detox Kitchen, and yeah.
And when you are allowed out, where are some of your favourite restaurants?
We love the Fordwich Arms, which is down near us in Kent. Barafina, sitting at the counter, James and I feasting away. I remember when Sylvester was a baby. He's not been in there since he could sit, and literally would destroy all of that ham and the hamon and the tortillas and the everything, the razor clams and the deliciousness of their Barafina. I used to love E&O when I lived in West London, and their duck and watermelons.
Did you used to live in E&O?
Yeah, I did. Practically each week.
You lived in West London? I didn't know that.
Yeah, for many years. Before I met James, that's where in Ladbroke Grove I was. But yeah, their duck and watermelon salad.
Oh, do you know what I have to say? It's still good, but they've made the portion sizes so much smaller now.
Oh, boring. It used to be huge.
Huge. I always finish my conversations with a few quick fire questions.
Oh gosh, no pressure.
No pressure whatsoever. My favourite snack of all time is a packet of crisps.
Ditto.
I knew you were going to say that. What is your favourite flavour and why?
Oh, do you know, it's really hard to commit to it, but
It's
this
a
has
big
happened
commitment.
with our entire gang from our the staying in Zoom things that we were doing in the original lockdown. Is those salt and vinegar crisps from the Co-op? I don't know if you've ever tried it.
No.
You have to try that. Literally, they'll take your entire tongue off. They are so incredible. But they only do giant bags of them, and it is
But is it a Co-op own brand?
Yeah, it's the Co-op own brand. It's like a kettle chip, but it's the Co-op own brand of their vinegar Salt and vinegar crisp.
Okay,
Oh
good.
my
Oh, it's a
God.
good salt and vinegar. Okay.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it knocks the socks off
Brilliant.
any.
Okay,
Yeah.
I need to go and get some.
Yeah, you have to.
Because I quite like the consistency of kettle chips.
Yeah.
Because I prefer the thicker
Yeah.
cut. However, I really don't like this balsamic vinegar and salt kettle chips.
No, I agree.
Okay,
Go for
I'm glad.
Cocoa
Okay, I'm
brand
glad
and
we're
try
on the
that.
same
You'll die.
page.
Yeah.
What is the craziest food you've ever eaten?
I can remember when I was in France talking about that, the raw meat, and I remember in France they used to have bags and bags of frog's legs in the freezer that they would then get out, you defrost them, and they would literally just there's barely any meat on a frog's leg, isn't it? So they were the lower, like almost hip, like just these little frogs, like I just remember
spindly little...
Yeah, that we then dusted in a flour and deep fried and made these little nibbly. So I remember cooking those when I was living in France on Ile de Ré. There's barely anything there.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like
trying
to get a bit of chicken.
Do you eat the whole...
No, you kind of nibble like a
like
chicken
a little
leg.
chicken wing.
But yeah.
What has been your most memorable meal?
Do you know what? I think there were some amazing lockdown meals. What James picked nettles from the garden because we've got an acre that was old allotments that we're trying to put a swimming pond into and vegetable patches, and we're just doing it gradually. And so there's an area that just gets covered in nettles, and James picked with rubber gloves on the tops of loads of nettles, blanched them, and then turned it into a nettle salad in lockdown with other things that we'd grown out of the garden and carrots and it was just an amazing lunch that we had that day with steak and a bottle of wine. I mean, we literally had a bottle of wine at breakfast, lunch and dinner in the last lockdown. And I've literally haven't drank properly since. Now I only drink red wine now. I used to drink gin and tonics from about 12 o'clock. So yeah, I think it was just everything about it was the weather that we had in the last lockdown. We just kept moving the garden furniture around the garden and having just different kind of pretending we were at different places. It was
sounds idyllic.
Yeah, it was.
I want to be locked down with you.
It was. Come. You're
I'm
welcome.
coming.
Yeah.
What is your favourite food?
I love Asian food. Any sort of Asian food. I am just, yeah, and my husband's food. I mean, he's so clever at making a meal out of the scraps that are left over.
I think that's such a talent.
We boil all the bones and he'll make a faux from the roast beef bones. And he will drizzle some sesame oil on it or some fish oil into something or a salad. And he has that. He finds the umami in kind of in the depth and the levels and he's very clever.
I love that.
I can't wait for this pizza garden oven
I think that's why I'm coming.
You are. You definitely have to come and try it.
My final question, and I think the most important: live to eat or eat to live?
Live to eat.
Yay!
100%. Yeah.
Me too. Kate, it's been an absolute pleasure. I'm so happy to be back in the boutique. And I hope that, I don't know why I might come back here, but I will come back here again, maybe for when I don't know, renew my vows or something. You can follow Kate on social media at Halfpenny London. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening and joining us this week. Please remember to subscribe to the podcast and tell a friend and another and maybe another. Don't forget you can follow all the crazy sexy antics on our social media channels, Instagram, Facebook and YouTube at Crazy Sexy Food. Until next time, goodbye.